So I got hired out of graduate school to work at Channel 5 in St. Louis, which was KSD TV in those days. Later on it was KSDK, still is. I think it's still KSDK. The station was the first station, well, actually second station west of the Mississippi at the time. Only 8 stations on the air. It went on the air in 1947. It's owned by Pulitzer, who were publishing the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and they populated their newsroom with top reporters who were newspaper reporters. Later on, everybody became a TV reporter, and that's a very different thing than being a newspaper reporter, because you don't have to know nearly as much to do TV as you would if you're going to have to write an 800 or 1200 story on it. Well, in any case, I had worked in TV before. I was on Channel 8 over in Columbia, Missouri, which was an NBC affiliate. It was owned by the University of Missouri and staffed by the journalism school largely, and had been put on the air in 1953. It was obviously a good station because it was being run by the J school there, and they knew what, in those days they knew what they were doing. But before I began seeing star quality in the mirror, as I did in grad school, and rooming with guys who were in TV and actually have a real career in it as it went along, I worked out in Virginia as an undergraduate at William & Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I covered the 5 counties of the Tidewater area for the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and also worked for the local weekly as well. But anyway, now here I am at one of the largest TV stations in the country, Channel 5. They had just gone color, and the place was, in truth, magical. They built these brand new studios, spick and span studios, beautiful studios, and had gutted when they moved their presses elsewhere, they moved into the press room and built 2 stories of studios, and it was the most modern stuff, and they had they'd gone all color, and it was really kind of an interesting time. It was the beginning of an era, not the beginning of TV so much as the beginning of the color era, and so on. And so my job there, and I was there for filling in for about 4 months from the time I was finishing up getting my master's degree, which I got after I had left in St. Louis, until the time I went into the military, which is a prior deal. I'm in ROTC, so I messed around long enough. I didn't know at the time I was going to get shipped to Vietnam for a couple of years. And then I would come back. I think it was expected I'd come back to Channel 5 and continue to be, which wasn't going to happen because of some stories that I'm about to tell you. Because they'd just gone color, and because NBC had logo then and now is a peacock with all those lovely colors, someone thought at the studio, well, why don't we get ourselves a couple of peacocks and bring them in here, and when people come into the station, you know, they can be greeted by a peacock who will spread their feathers, which they only do at certain times a year, I guess, when they're trying to attack, reproduce probably. So anyway, soon enough, we've got a couple of peacocks. And the peacocks are nasty birds. They've got a terrible personality. They make a junkyard dog look lovely. And they would light out after people. They would crap on the floors. They would well, peacocks didn't last very long, but they certainly managed in short order to alienate pretty well everybody at the station, and anybody dumb enough to open the door and come visiting in there. Channel 5 and the coverage and what I did there, I would fill in. I would put the station on the air, radio station on the air in the morning, and then I would do the TV stuff, and then I would. Now here I was writing and producing. I wasn't. I did. I appeared on air a time or two, but I was not hired on air. I was hired as a producer and as a to write the news and write it. I did. I wrote all the newscasts over that period of months as different guys would go on vacation, get fired, And by the way, if you wanted to get fired at Channel 5 and at NBC, in those days, all you had to do was mispronounce one word. Well, now that had changed, but one day I put the following word into a newscast, BONAFIDE, okay, which, and as we all know, it's pronounced bona fide. However, my guy, when he was on the air, and you'd watch him, and then he'd go out there and read it, and then he'd go on the air, and here's what you've done. This guy says on the air, bona fide. So anyway, after the guy comes back to get the coffee or gumbo or something, and as he passes by, I say, "Oh, by the way, you mispronounced the word on the air." The blood drains from this man's face. All typing, all sounds stop, and he's, what was it? And I said, "Well, it was bona fide." And then everybody said, like, "It's bona fide, look it up." That's right. The dictionary was fide, okay? But that really wasn't the main problem they had, because the Vietnam War was cranking up. And the source on pronunciation was the Associated Press, and they would send out phonetically how to pronounce these strange names, Ban Me Tuit, Ban Me Toot, Saigon, but mostly they really had a lot of trouble with Vietnam, all this sort of stuff, and it would sometimes change from week to week how we pronounce the stuff in Vietnam, or whatever. Well, anyway. They also, I would go out and cover things. I'd go out and do the man on the streets. And I've got a whole bunch of stories to tell. I guess I'll just tell the man on the street story. Because it's kind of one of my favorites. When you're doing a man on the street, so you go out with the talent, and you got your film crew, and you have to work really fast, because camera and this kind of thing really attract a crowd very quickly, and crowds are problems, and you got to work through this. So I would get out there, and I'd get them lined up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'd be ready to go. And the idea of Man on the Street was to titillate. So what happens if your teenage daughter, you find condoms in there, or if she's sleeping with the gardener, or this kind of really kind of offensive stuff that readers seem to like, or viewers seem to like. So anyway, the guy who was doing our Man on the Street, whose name will remain nameless and is long gone, but he was good at getting his coffee and getting the coffee orders right, and he could read, and he was really a good-looking guy. And he did our afternoon broadcast at 5 o'clock in those days, which was as pitched to me when I was producing and writing it, is that the newscast is for lonely housewives, okay, whose husbands will be home about 9 o'clock after they've been playing, chasing bar girls around the bar stool, and nothing good is going to happen in a physical way for this woman tonight, or perhaps ever again. And so we're it. So we had Bob, and they unbuttoned Bob, because Bob had some chest hair, and then Bob would lean in, and he would talk very softly and lovely for 30 minutes to the housewives, and the show was baffle. It really did well with that show. And it was leading up, by the way, to the network show 536, the Midwestern time. And those years it was the Huntley Brinkley Report, and we were up against Cronkite. So anyway, this guy is the guy we take out on the streets, and he wanders away. Okay, he sees somebody attractive. Okay, he was only, so the only way I could manage this was to keep my hand on the back of his shirt while I talked to, would you like to, and get them all lined up, and usually I had him back against the wall and we're ready to go, and I lined them up. And on this particular day, I let go of him, and turned to the film crew and said, we're ready to roll it. Turned around, and there is no Bob. He is gone. This is not possible. Okay, we are on a street, which you can see up and down the street and up and down the sidewalk against essentially brick wall. Okay, where'd he go? Well, what he did was he took a step back, and there was an open grate there, and he fell down the grate. So, where's Bob? You hear him. Oh. Bob? Oh. Anyway, we get him back up and dust him off, tight shoot him. It's only one of many stories we have about this fellow, who's very lovable. He almost created a riot one day when I was out with him the other, because he was decided to talk to some trucker's wife, and we'll perhaps save that story for another time. But I want to wrap up here by talking about it was a transition period where I was an experienced reporter by that time, done a lot of reporting, but it is here where one day an elevator fell in a building, and I was leaving the station, and in those days, a fire truck goes by, ambulance goes by, and your news, you just fall in behind them. And that's what I did. I just ran. I don't know where we're going, but I know we're going somewhere, and we're going fast, and we're running red lights. And we wind up at this, I think it was probably an old warehouse, I don't know. But in they go, right? And the elevator had fallen, and they had the people. They were starting to bring the people out. And this guy was on laying on one of these gurney kind of things that they were doing. And I was the only reporter there. So we're only about 5 or 10 minutes from our 6 o'clock newscast. And so we got a clear shot. I mean, this is if you want to be the guy who's got the story and nobody else does, here we are. Okay, so I was pumped. And so here comes the guy by, and I'm saying to him, what happened? What happened? Give me, I'm shouting at this guy, oh, tell me what happened. I got to get a quote. I got to know what's going on. And I got down to the corner, and there was another, what we call EMT guy standing there this time. And the guy said to me, what are you doing? And I thought, what am I doing? I'm shouting at this poor guy who's maybe every bone in his body is probably going to die. I don't know. So I decided, I'm not going to do that again. That's okay. And the other story we tell is, I'd go in early around 4:30 in the morning if I'm putting the 6 o'clock radio on. And I'd go down. I was living out in the suburbs. And there's one particular morning coming down in the downtown area, and I come up over the thing, and there are ambulances and fire trucks, and there's a car over here that's hit a stanchion, obviously high rate of speed, and it cut in half. The car is almost in 2 pieces, and then you see up on the kind of side here, up on a berm, there's a body. And so this is this is not and we would report things like this. So I stopped and I got all the info, who is the guy, and all this kind of thing. And I turned to go, and I remember you always ask the obvious question and confirm it. And I said, is he dead? And they said, go over and smell him. So I go over and he's absolutely dead drunk. okay? And it apparently, no, this is true. If you are really drunk, okay, your muscles don't tighten up. You don't got thrown from the car anyway. All they did was haul him over here, took him down to the drunk tank, and let him sober up. And thereafter, always after, I would always ask the obvious question. And the obvious question, of course, this time was, I know he was dead. I don't have to go ask that, but I did, and he wasn't. And that's kind of a cautionary tale for how we used to do business. And we're going to talk about NBC and CBS and all those guys, because I did return and work for, during one of the conventions, I think it was in '80, I covered some stuff for CBS on the mountain station that never mounted to much. And I did some, I got hired to cover both conventions in 1984 for a TV station in Kansas, and that was the absolute last time I worked on TV. They were no longer interested in news, but they sure were interested in who's sleeping with who and what kind of dirt can we get and how can we, and this is the operative, how can we titillate you? And the TV news had, even by that time, which was hard on the 45 years ago, maybe on so, had turned into titillation. And it was a long way from the reporters who the St. Louis Post-Dispatch put into their newsroom at KSD TV, who were solid news guys.